Before the rooster crowed, Zina was already awake. Not because someone called her, but because hunger and habit had taught her that pain woke up earlier than the sun. She crept out of her corner space in the tiny mud house, wrapped in a threadbare wrapper barely clinging to her bony frame. The silence outside was heavy, the kind that doesn't promise peace, but warns you of more pain to come. She picked up the old broom, its bristles worn like her spirit, and began sweeping the compound as dust danced around her bare feet. Zina was 11. Her stepmother, Madame KG, called her the witch's seed, a phrase she spat with every insult and slap. Zina never knew her birth mother. She had died when Zina was just a toddler. Her father, if she could call him that, was nothing but a drunk who barely looked at her. She swept, fetched water, chopped firewood, washed the latrine, cooked when food was available, and watched others eat when it wasn't. That morning, after hours of chores, Zina entered the kitchen just in time to be greeted by a flying wooden spoon. "You call this porridge?" Madame KG's voice echoed like thunder. "It tastes like mud soaked in tears. Are you trying to kill me, you cursed child?" Zina stood still, her lips shut. Crying only made things worse. Madame KG continued, "One day, you'll rot in the gutter where your mother picked you." Later that night, Zina sat in her corner, clutching the only photograph she had, a faded image of a smiling woman, herself as a baby and a man with a crooked smile. She whispered, "Mama, wherever you are, I wish you took me with you." The next day, everything changed. Zina returned from the stream to find a sleek, black Prado Jeep parked near the compound. She had never seen such a car up close. Her heart raced. Out stepped a woman in high heels and sunglasses, followed by a man in a suit. They looked like TV people. Her father, Ideal, stepped forward. "You're leaving," he said without looking at her. "You now work for these people in the city. They've paid already. Go and don't come back." Zina's throat tightened. "Please, Papa. I'll work harder. Don't send me away. You should be thankful they want a thing like you." The woman scoffed. "Let's go. I don't have all day." Zina packed her things, just 2 wrappers, 1 dress, and the photo, and stepped into the SUV. No lights, not even a backward glance from the family she thought she belonged to. The ride to the city was quiet. Cold air from the AC made her shiver, and not just from the temperature. She clutched her bag like a lifeline, staring out the tinted windows at a world she'd never imagined. Flyovers, traffic lights, malls with glass walls, people who looked like they had never seen hardship. They arrived at a mansion. Tall gates, marble floors, guards, maids, clean air. Inside, the rich woman, Mrs. Adesawa, didn't smile. "From today, you live here. You will take care of my husband's mother. She's old and sick. You don't talk unless spoken to. You don't go where you're not sent. One mistake, and I send you back with scars." Zina nodded. She had learned long ago that resistance brought more pain. She was shown her room, small but clean. A bed, a table, a cracked mirror. Compared to the mat on the dusty floor in her stepmother's hut, it was a palace. That night, she stared at the ceiling. "Mama," she whispered, "I don't know where I am or what I'll face, but I'll survive. Like you did." And as the moonlight slipped in through the tiny window, a new chapter of Zina's life quietly began, one that would shake the very foundations of everything the Adesawa family thought they knew. Zina was up before dawn. Her small feet padded softly along the marble tiles as she made her way to the room she had been told to care for, the room of the old one. The house was still silent. Even the guards were switching shifts. She gently turned the brass doorknob and stepped into a room that smelled of old medicines and forgotten dreams. There, in a large wooden bed, lay a frail old woman with sunken cheeks, skin like aged paper, and a head full of graying curls. Her name was Madame Elahor, mother to Mr. Adesawa, the mansion's absentee patriarch. Zina paused. The air in the room was heavy, like the kind you find in graves. But her instincts kicked in. She drew the curtains wide open, letting in sunlight that splashed over the dust-covered furniture like a holy presence. She took a clean cloth, dipped it in warm water, and began wiping down Madame Elahor's face. "Good morning, Ma. I'm Zina. I'll take care of you now, okay," she whispered. To her surprise, the old woman blinked. Slowly, once, then twice. Zina smiled. "See? I know you can hear me." She gently combed the woman's thin hair, humming a lullaby her late mother used to sing. "Mama used to sing this when I was scared. I don't know if you're scared too, but I'm here." And so began a routine. Every morning, Zina would sneak in before the rest of the house woke. She cleaned, fed, and spoke to Madame Elahor. She cracked little jokes, told stories of her village life, goat chases, rain dances, the time she tried to fry Gary and nearly burned the whole compound. Madame Elahor began to respond. Small eye movements, a grunt here, a dry chuckle there, and one day words. "Croaky, barely there but real. You're not like the others." Zina gasped. "You spoke." The old woman managed a weak smile. "They want me dead." Zina's heart tightened. "I won't let them." What neither of them knew was that someone had been listening. Vanessa, Mr. Odessa's new wife. Young, sharp-tongued, and ruthless. She had married into the family not for love, but for legacy. Elahor's company was a sleeping giant, and her paralysis had made it easy for Vanessa and her husband to hijack it. But if Elahor was recovering, and, God forbid, if she started talking, the lies, the forgeries, the fake medical reports, everything would collapse. So she acted. That evening, she confronted the housemaid. "From tonight, that old bat gets no more food, no more water, no visitors. Lock the door. I don't want anyone near her again." "But madam," did I stutter? The next morning, Zina arrived with food and a small bouquet of flowers she had picked from the backyard. The door was locked. She knocked. Nothing. Her heart pounded. She tried the handle again. Still locked. Zina ran to the backyard and spotted the gardener's ladder leaning against a palm tree. She dragged it to Madame Elahor's window, tied the bread and medicine in her wrapper, and began to climb. Her limbs trembled, but her determination burned. At the window, she tapped softly. Elahor stirred. "It's me, Mama. I came through the sky today. You're not alone." Tears welled in the old woman's eyes. Zina fed her, massaged her aching arms, and made her laugh with impressions of Vanessa's voice. When she tried to leave, Elahor gripped her wrist. "Zina," she whispered, "there's something about you, something familiar." Zina frowned. "What do you mean?" Elahor stared hard at her. "Your eyes. That photo by your bed. Bring it to me tomorrow." Zina nodded slowly, and in that moment, the walls of silence began to crack. Something was coming. A truth buried so deep, its return could either save or destroy everything. The next morning, Zina didn't waste a second. As early as 4 a.m., she tiptoed out of her small room, the cherished photo tucked carefully inside her wrapper. She climbed the ladder once again, gently tapped on the window, and slipped inside the room like she had done for the past few days. Madame Elahor was already awake, her frail body propped up with pillows, her eyes alert, hungry, almost desperate. Zina stepped closer and unfolded the photo. "This is the only picture I have. That's my mother, I think." Elahor took it with trembling fingers. Her eyes scanned the image and then froze. She said nothing for nearly a minute. Then, in a whisper like dry leaves, "Where did you get this?" Zina swallowed. "It was in the box Mama left before she died. I don't know who the man is. Maybe her brother. Maybe. That's not your mother." Zina's heart skipped. "What?" "That's my son, Daniel. And Clara, his wife." Zina blinked. "Then who's the baby?" Elahor stared at her. "You." Zina laughed awkwardly. "No, Ma. I grew up in the village. My mama told me I was abandoned. She found me in the bush." Elahor's voice broke. "You weren't abandoned. You were taken." The room was silent. The city outside continued to move. Cars, horns, morning routines. But inside that room, time had stopped. Madame Elahor motioned toward the drawer beside her bed. Give me the landline. Hide it. Bring it here. Zina obeyed. She dialed a number from memory. After 2 rings, a man answered. Hello. Sam. It's me. Madam G. I need a DNA test. Quietly. Bring the doctor. The next day, Zina opened the side gate just after sunrise. 2 men in suits walked in, one carrying a briefcase, the other holding sealed test kits. They greeted Elahor with reverence. The test was done quickly. Swabs, labels, silence. The samples were packed, the men disappeared, and Zina sat beside Elahor with a hurricane of confusion raging inside her. Mama, what if it's not true? Elahor squeezed her hand. Then we'll still be family. Because you brought me back to life, Zina. 3 days passed. Vanessa was too busy throwing brunch parties and pretending to be the mansion's new queen. Her husband, Henry, had no clue the past was knocking at the front gate. On the 4th morning, the landline rang. Elahor answered. She listened, then whispered, Are you sure? Silence, then a small nod. Thank you. She hung up, turned slowly toward Zina, and stared. The results. You're mine. My granddaughter. Zina dropped the glass she had been holding. It shattered. What? You're Daniel's daughter. My son's only child. Zina's knees gave way. She collapsed onto the floor. No. No. Mama. This can't be. Why, how? Elahor inhaled sharply, then sat up, and kept sitting up. Then, in one swift movement, she pulled her legs over the bed and stood. Zina gasped. Mama, you can walk. I've been able to walk for months. But sometimes, you play weak to watch your enemies move. She walked to the mirror, slowly unwrapped her scarf, and fixed her regal silver hair. Zina just stared, mouth open. Elahor picked up her phone. Call the board. Call the media. Call my lawyer. And get ready. The masquerade is about to remove her mask. In less than 2 hours, the estate was flooded with tinted SUVs. Security men poured in like a wave of judgment. Elahor walked into the living room like a queen from exile, wrapped in gold, her head high, her voice sharp. Henry spilled his tea. Vanessa dropped her wine glass. You thought I'd rot in that room? Surprise. And beside her stood Zina. No longer the maid, no longer the witch girl, but a princess, born of legacy, about to take back what was stolen. The boardroom was silent, not because there was nothing to say, but because nobody knew what would be safe to say. Elahor sat at the head of the long, polished table, her fingers laced beneath her chin. She looked every bit the lioness who once ruled the empire, only now, older, sharper, and far more dangerous. Beside her sat Zina, washed, dressed in a fitted emerald dress, her hair tamed, her eyes sharp with something new, belief in herself. Across from them, Henry sat in his expensive blazer, sweat beading under his eyes. Vanessa hovered beside him like a wounded peacock, clutching her fake designer bag like it might protect her from the tsunami building in front of them. Elahor cleared her throat. I will be brief, she said, her voice calm, measured, devastating. Years ago, I lost my son and his wife. But I didn't lose everything. I lost a granddaughter, too, a baby we believed burned in the crash. She turned toward Zina. She didn't die. She was taken, hidden, sold. Gasps rippled around the room. Phones slipped. Pens dropped. This young woman, Zina, is my granddaughter, the rightful heir of Daniel Desawa. The DNA test confirms it with 99.999% certainty. Vanessa jumped up. This is madness. This little bush girl? That's not. There's no proof she. Silence. Elahor's voice cracked like lightning. I remember you, Vanessa. You smiled while they locked me away. You wore my perfume. Sat in my chair. Spent my money. Now you'll reap what you sowed. She raised a stack of documents. Effective immediately, Henry Adesawa is suspended. The signatures that made him CEO? Fraudulent. Forged. Legal action is being pursued. As for you, Vanessa, she stood up slowly and walked to her. You've got 10 minutes to leave this building before I send security to drag you out. Vanessa's jaw quivered. You can't do this. I just did. Henry tried to speak. Mama, wait, Elahor turned her eyes on him. You were my son too, until you became the shadow of a man. Your greed cost this family everything. Now get out, both of you. The room watched, frozen, as security escorted the trembling couple out of the boardroom. The mighty had fallen. Outside, as their suitcases were tossed into the back of a rusted van, Vanessa screamed, "This is your fault, Henry. You and your stupid ambitions." Inside, Elahor returned to her seat and faced the stun board. "We are restoring order. My granddaughter will be trained. She will rise. And when I'm gone, she will lead." She turned to Zina. "Welcome home." That night, back at the mansion, Zina stood alone on the balcony, overlooking the city that had once made her feel small. Her hair whipped in the wind. She held the photo of her mother, no, Clara, and smiled. Elahor joined her, a warm shawl around her shoulders. "You know," Elahor said, "when you first walked into my room, I thought you were just a light in the dark. I didn't know you were my sunrise." Zina chuckled. "I thought I was just a maid. You were always more. You just needed someone to remind you." There was a long silence between them, the comforting kind. Then Elahor said, "Tomorrow, we're visiting your village. It's time they see who you really are." The convoy entered the village with black SUVs, armed escorts, and camera crews. Chickens scattered. Women dropped their firewood. Children paused mid-play. And out stepped Zina, clothed in gold and white lace, her crown subtle but undeniable. Her stepmother, Madame KG, came out chewing on roasted maize, and choked. Her father, Ideal, stumbled out from the backyard, shirt half-buttoned, eyes wide. Zina. Zina didn't speak. Elahor stepped forward. "This girl you starved, beaten, called a witch, she is royalty. And you treated her like dirt. Your shame will be televised." She turned to KG and dropped a wrapped bundle of money on the ground. "This is your final payment. You will never see her again." To Ideal, she said simply, "You had one job, to love her, and you failed." Zina turned without a word, not out of anger, but because the past had no more hold on her. They drove off, leaving dust and disbelief behind. Back in the city, Zina began school, enrolled in speech classes, learned finance, and sat in on company meetings. She walked with her head up now. No longer the maid, no longer the orphan, no longer the girl they sold, but Zina Adesawa, heiress, survivor, queen in the making. And each night, before bed, she whispered toward the stars, "Mama, I found my way back.